Here we go. We have everything properly installed and the environment is ready. It's time to do some real work. We open Visual Studio and we are going to create a new project. Look at that, we have a new Signum framework template project. But this is for more complex scenarios where you have a client and a server application. We are going to start simple. Let's create a console application and it's going to be about customers. Next step is to add some references. Right-click in References, Add Reference, and in the S we have all the Signum framework assemblies. Signum Utilities is the basic assembly where everything is based on. It promotes a more functional and linked way of programming. Signum Entities is the one you use to model your entities, and Signum Engine is the one you use to speak with the database. We're gonna need these three. Here it is. In Signum framework, you usually start by writing the entities. Let's start with the customer. We have some new snippets here. Entity, we use customer, easy. We have to include Signum entities. Now let's add some fields to the customer. We have another snippet, field. It has a string, name, string surname, and a date of birth. That's all. Okay, we have our customer entity. Let's start creating some customer objects. Customer, Bart, customer, name is Bart, surname Simpson, maybe 10 years old. Okay, here it is, our first customer entity. Now let's see how difficult it is to save it in database. We have to use database, static class, and say save. Difficult, huh? Now it's time for retrieving. We create a new customer. Bart2 is database.retrieve a customer which ID is, oh, we don't know the ID. Yeah, we know because Bart have been saved, so we have the ID in there. So Bart.id. Or we can use link queries. Customer Bart3 is database.query of customer single the customer which name is Bart. Easy. The problem with retrieving entities using IDs is that you easily mess up IDs of different kind of entities. Instead, you can create laces. Laces are a very light and neat way of keeping a reference to an entity that is in the database. So we do a lazy Bart is Bart.lazy to lazy, and then we do database.retrieve lazy Bart, and we have our fourth Bart. Bart4. Easy. Okay, let's see if all this works. We press the play button and oops, not current connection established. We don't have a database yet, but look how far we have come. One of the important things of Signum Framework is that by writing almost all the code in C#, you no longer have a SQL C# cycle that will slow down your development process. Let's follow now the instructions of the exception. We have to set connection scope default. So here we go. We create a new, connection scope default is a base connection. There is two kinds of connection in Signum Framework. One is mock connection, useful for tests, and another one is the real connection, that is the one we are going to use here. It takes a connection string for a real database and a schema. The schema is a definition of the entities that will go inside of the database. Let's start with the schema. In order to create the schema, we have to create first the schema builder tool class. Schema builder. This class will help us adding all the entities that we want to include in the schema. So customer DN. Now the framework knows that customer is the only entity that will go inside of the database. The schema. Here we go. Now it's time to create the database. We go ahead, we open SQL Management Studio, and we create a new database.
It'll be named customer. Okay.
Easy. Then in Visual Studio, we open Server Explorer and we try to connect to our database. This way, we can get the connection string.
Easy. Let's see if it works now.
We go ahead and press the green play button and...
Oops, another problem. An error message says that customer table hasn't been created. It's in Spanish because of my SQL Server installation.
We have created the schema object, but this is just the logical definition of how the schema have to look like. That doesn't mean that the database have all the tables already created. In order to create the schema, we have to use the administrator static class. Okay, so console.writeLine new database if console.readline lower starts with yes, then administrator new database basic. That's it. Let's see if we can create a new database now. We hit F5, new database, yeah. And here we go, it looks like we have a database now. We go to SQL Management Studio, yeah, database, customers, tables.
Here it is, customer table. We go to design. And as you see, we have the 3 fields that we have created. And also we have ticks that is useful for concurrency, and we have it because we have inherited from entity. And also we have toString and ID that are the fields that every single entity has in Signum framework.
Also, note how the default mapping tries to keep the type mismatch as low as possible, so strings are allowed to be null while all the value types are not. Okay, we close this.
And let's see if it works now. We have a BART and we save it and it has an ID number 1 now. Then we retrieve and we have the second BART. And then using a link query, we retrieve again and we have the third BART. And then we make a lazy. And we get the fourth BART. Customer. Oh my god, I've misspelled customer, and now it's spread all around the project. I don't want to record this tutorial again.
No worries. Fortunately, we are using a strong typed language, and since everything is written in C#, you can just do a refactoring, customer, create a new database, yeah. And everything is still working fine. Cool. Okay, that's it. But I don't want you to leave with the impression that Signum framework is meant to do some small console application where you put the entities and the logic all together. In the next tutorial, we will create a real application. We will learn how to model many entity classes related to each other, add validation. We will write complex queries in the server, and we will create a responsive user interface in our client application. Also, we will organize all this code in a proper n-layer architecture. Hope all these have been useful for you, and thank you for listening.